complaint from Charlie Blanchard, received on May 23rd, 2023. Acknowledgement of the open meeting law complaint against the Finance Committee, discussion and response to the same, and votes may be taken. Meeting minutes, old business, new business, public access, and adjournment. So, getting to the open meeting law violation, we received the open meeting law violation along with the town clerk on May 23rd. In the form, the alleged violation is that the Sturbridge Finance Committee posts blanket generic meeting agenda with non-specific agenda items for the 8 regularly scheduled committee meetings, at which committee reviews and makes recommendations on, basically on everything in the budget. And that I believe that this does not comply with the requirement of the open meeting law that the list of agenda topics must be sufficiently specific to reasonably inform the public of the issues to be discussed at the meeting. The current practice followed by the Finance Committee in posting meeting does not provide the public with any information on what specific budget articles or expenditures will be discussed at a specific meeting. That copy of that alleged violation was sent to everybody on the Finance Committee that same day on May 23rd. We then also sought opinion from the town council. We have a draft opinion from the town council that was received on June 12th, and that on the same day, that draft opinion was sent to all the Finance Committee members to have for their review at this meeting, so we could be prepared to discuss and move forward as to whether or not we want to accept that language and vote accordingly. Does anyone else have any? Yeah, please, Mike.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, in reviewing Mr. Blanchard's complaint and the requirements of the open meeting law, the open meeting law does require that our notice include a listing of the topics that the chair reasonably anticipates will be discussed at the meeting, and it does require some level of specificity to the extent that we have that. So if we knew that there were particular topics that were being discussed on a given night, those could be listed. Certainly if I take it out of the Finance Committee and bring it to like a Board of Selectmen, if there's a number of contracts and appointments that are going to be discussed, those tend to get listed out as specific items for people to be aware of. In reviewing our approach to our meetings, this committee tends to look at the budget as a whole over the course of the budget season. Rather than, we look at the police department on April 1st, and we're done with police department discussions, and we move on to other departments. So we sometimes discuss a budget department one night. Questions come up, we'll take that up on the following, whether it's the next meeting or a meeting after that. We may get through each department on a single night and arrive in the end that, there's a changes in the budget, change in revenue forecast that require amendments to or revisions to things we did in the past, and have to go back and relook at some of those. Or discussions on night 4, bring to mind something we should have brought up on an earlier discussion. So unlike, we're not in a case where we talk about a particular budget on one night and it's final and we move on. So our budget process is reviewing the budget as a whole throughout the cycle, and therefore this to be able to provide specificity as to a particular budget on a particular night is inconsistent with our approach, and our notice does kind of provide that broad discussion and notice to people that of our process and how we take it up. And so Town Council has drafted a letter consistent with our approach and has indicated that our method is consistent with the open meeting law requirements. And I would make a motion that we accept the language of the draft letter provided by Town Council and have Town Council forward that to the appropriate state agency with a copy to Mr. Blanchard.
Second. I'm sorry, does anyone? Okay, Mike made a motion to accept the draft.
I'll second it.
Oh, Jim's going to second, okay. All right, anyone else with any questions, comments?
I just have a correction, and although I don't feel comfortable correcting someone else from the law firm, but if you go to page 2, and you go to the the third paragraph, third line up from the bottom of the third paragraph, it says sufficient specificity when a reasonably member of the public could read. I think that should say reasonable, B-L-E.
Yes, it should be, yeah.
So that's the only thing I picked up as a
I just
typo.
want to make
It's
sure I
right
see
here.
where it is.
It's right here. Page 2.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even see that it went over to this page.
You
That's
can
right.
have this. I'll give this to you. But it's on the second page. It says reasonably, and it probably, I
Here it is
believe the
right
intent
here.
was reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'll make
So
sure.
that's, I think any minor edits are consistent with my motion and
Yes,
can pass those
absolutely.
along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only other comment I would make is, one thing that it's been a handicap in some sense, is for the past 3 years, we've met, I believe, just on Tuesday nights, is it?
Thursdays,
Thursday, yeah.
one night a week.
One night a
It's
week.
much more compact, yeah.
It is, and perhaps, that's had something to do with, I don't know. It's a handicap, I believe. Meeting 2 nights a week, I think, was a definite advantage. It gave us a lot more opportunity to have broader discussion and not feel rushed, but that's just an observation.
Okay.
If you would indulge me, I did review this before the meeting, anticipating a tight arrival. If the motion is to accept this, albeit with minor edits,
Sure.
I would like to be able to cast a vote, but if you think that's inappropriate, I'm fine.
No, you're here. You're an active member of the committee.
Just rarely tardy, but
Yeah. Okay, not hearing any other discussion, I guess we're ready to go forward with a vote. So we have a first and a second to accept the draft language from town council with the minor edit of changing the word reasonably to reasonable. And other than that, I will take all those in favor. And all those opposed? That would be 7-0 in favor to accept the language. All right, thank you.
And I guess as a matter of practice, again, to the extent that we, in the future, find we're talking about specific departments on specific times and can give an indication as to, generally what those departments will be and when, but still give us the flexibility to go back and reconsider previously discussed budget, departments. That would be, I think, consistent with what the open meeting law is looking for and what Mr. Blanchard was there. So, for next year, we know we're going to talk about police, fire, and DPW on, a certain night, and we could put that in the notice, that'd be great, so people know we're talking about that. But also, leaving a general language of reconsideration of previously reviewed budget items, so that if we have to go back and relook at something, we have the flexibility and haven't tied our hands.
Well, if I may. I don't completely disagree with you, Mike, but I think that could actually narrow what we could talk about, and if something falls through, because we're independently on our time meeting with these people, and if they have an issue that they can't make it for one reason or other, or one of us can't, and then you have, say, 3 major departments on there, and for some reason, 2 of them weren't able to communicate or go over their budgets, then we're twiddling our thumbs, so to speak, because then those 3 things may be the only thing on the agenda. And I don't mind putting on that we will likely be doing these, but we might also be looking at other line item budgets or other items on the town meeting warrant. And again, even with the town meeting warrant, it seemed like this year, and maybe I'm forgetting from other years, that there were a fair amount of edits coming in, and we might have voted one way one week, and then the next week, oh, there's been a change in language, you have to do it again. And we wouldn't have
Yep.
had that on the agenda.
I agree, we
So
still
I
need
think
to
you
keep
need
it
some
broad. If we can-
real flexibility
Yep.
because of the way our
Process works.
process works. And I agree with Jim that I think the shortening of the time and the lesser amount of meetings, makes it a little more rushed, and we have to have the capability of jumping from one thing to another easily because of our time constraints.
And I'd like to just, so people who are not familiar with the whole process, just bring up that the time restraints isn't controlled by us.
Right. Oh, yeah,
We
no.
have to wait until even a draft warrant is communicated to us to begin any type of actions. And usually that only happens within 8 to 10 weeks of the town meeting date. So that really compresses how much time we have to do it. If we could get, we'd have to communicate to all the people involved, the town administrator, the finance director, the board of selectmen, that in order for us to meet these obligations, if we were trying to, you need to give us more time. You need to give a draft warrant to us 12 weeks in advance, or, so we have some time to really develop a formal schedule. But we don't control that. We have to wait until it's delivered to us. And now I've got something to say, okay, we have the budget book with the line item budget. When we have a warrant, we can act on, and now we can try and, working back from, we all know how we do it. We work back from the town meeting date. We try to give the book 2 weeks in the public's hands so they can review and ask questions and discuss, and then we work backwards from that 2-week deadline, to try and get everything done. Now, this particular year, last year, we lost a meeting, for fiscal year '23, we had 1 meeting less than the year before, just based on the dates and the agendas set up. So it's, we're the tip of the tail of the dog here, so sometimes it's a little difficult.
And I think while it's nice, I think it's not going to be practical that we get warrants that are locked down 12 weeks, 8 weeks in advance. It's
know,
a
I agree.
fluid process that happens to the end. If I look at our own select boards or Board of Selectmen, postings for this fiscal year, they have similar broad topics. Consideration and possible action on special town meeting warrant articles. And we'll talk about specific ones. Possibly reopening the warrant. So things happen at the last minute. We've got our meeting scheduled. Something happened on a Tuesday or a Monday there. We're able to have flexibility to take it up at our meeting that Thursday. So again, that's part of that broad process where we talk about the budget and the articles in their entirety over the course of that cycle.
Any other comments? We do have, go ahead.
I was just thinking that, in the course of going through all the warrants and articles, that if someone was interested in a specific discussion, that they could make notice to someone in the group, and they could let them know what night we were going to be talking about it, too.
Right,
So, I
we
mean,
could
it's-
be contacted and asked,
So it's
yeah.
kind of, I think it's, that, they can be proactive also. It's not just us that has, if I was interested in something, I wouldn't wait for it to come up. I would go to the board and say, hey, when you're going to talk about this, I'd like to be here, if it was that important.
Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, we do have one set of meeting minutes we could act on, because it is on the agenda. And I don't know if anyone's had a chance to read them, the June 5th ones, from the night of the special the annual town meeting, where we took up the reserve fund transfer for the building inspector. Mike was really diligent that night and delivered them like at midnight.
That's right.
Oh, that's right, you
I
did.
read them and filed them.
Oh, okay.
That's right, you did.
Get them right here.
I read it, Mike did a great
did
job.
read it.
think
Yeah, I
got
thought
home
so
and-
too.
My wife was still at a meeting, so I said, let me wrap these up.
We're going to vote on them?
Yes. I mean, it
Someone's
seems
going to make a
everyone's
motion to approve. I'll make a motion to
I'll make a
approve.
motion.
Okay, and then we'll let Mike make the motion, and I'll second.
Mike makes a motion to approve them as written, and the other Mike will second. Okay, so that's Mike McGlone for the first and Mike Hager for the second, because I have to figure out how I'm going to say that. Huh? Right. Any other questions or comments?
No.
All those in favor? opposed, and abstaining. So that's 6 to 1. All right, that gets us through meeting minutes. I don't have any old business or new business. There is no public for access. So, Ms. Darren? Oh, wait, Larry?
Do I understand correctly that the moderator has appointed another member of this committee?
I just got that today. Yes, he has.
Do you know the name?
Wait, hang on, I gotta dig them out. Okay. So, we've got, let's go back. Lee is being reappointed. Mike is being reappointed, and I'm gonna massacre this name, so I apologize in advance.
Which Mike?
Mike Hager, sorry, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Sean Wartskevich from Cedar Street. I'll have to get his contact information, so as, you know, our terms run through the end of the fiscal year, so he'd officially be a part of the committee on July 1st, and he would need to be sworn in on that date. And actually, that makes me think of, as you know, we're getting to the end of the fiscal year. Generally, you have 2 weeks beyond the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, to wrap up the town's business. So there is the possibility that we may need to meet to do a reserve fund transfer, depending on what happens. So just keep that in your mind. It's usually before July 14th. And at the very least, we should try and meet to reorganize. So Jim can set the liaisons up for next year.
Oh, you telling us something?
No. All right.
I think we ought to recognize Bruce and Joe. Past members, Bruce resigned this year and Joe's.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Thank you very much for bringing that up. We did have 2 members who have left the committee this year, when Joe Freitas, who was a past member and then rejoined, now served his term, and Bruce Boyson, who was a long-term member as well, who also left the committee this year. So we'd like to thank them for all their time, effort, well-organized opinions, and contributions to all of our deliberations and votes and actions. But thank you for reminding me of that.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'm going to call this the Lee motion.
How did I get tagged with that? I move to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Larry seconds the motion to adjourn from Lee. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you all for your time and coming out this
Thank you,
evening.
sir.
Thank you for your very thoughtful note.